Wow, here we go. This could be live right now. I don't know. It really is Uncle whoever with a fucking thing, something, something. Hi. Apparently we're live. Welcome. From the bottom of my heart, welcome. This is the Art of Rock. And, maybe we should change this week to the art of not giving up and the art of healing and making it through this fucking clusterfuck. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the Tongva people who have made it through some horrifying times, are still here as the traditional landowners of Los Angeles and are surviving. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. Next, every Saturday, I hope, Art of Rock is here. And if I'm not taking it, then Razeil the Amazing is taking it. And again, Razeil, thank you so much. It's mainly on Angelspit's Twitch, but it's also on YouTube and Facebook and all other places. And I'm going to put it onto fucking Instagram. Why do I bother? This is made possible with Angelspit's Patreon. Many are here, $3 a month, and you are going to help me. By the way, you get a free copy of everything I ever do. Like every time I release something, you get a copy. I can't thank you enough for being on my Patreon. I really can't. Yeah, it's become a community, and that's because of the Patreon members, not really because of me. And I'm grateful. Ice Planet's second album is live. It's there. It's on Angelspit's Bandcamp. The digitals, I think, go out on Monday. But if you're a Patreon member, you've already received the digitals. But I'm sending you another copy as well. And also, your Patreon is currently getting the demos for the next Angelspit album, which is turning into something quite horrific, which is good, right? Horror is good. There's a whole bunch of music I want you to find out about. It's called the Industrial Incisions playlist, and it's a whole bunch of really cool stuff. A lot of new bands that you need to know about, and a lot of old common bands that you need to know about as well. And more amazing music will be on MTV TV, which we are going to raid on over there after this. MTV TV are amazing, and if you've got something, if you've got a track, throw it to them. They will play it. And if you're looking for new music, this is where you're going to find it. If you've got downtime or something, or you're just breezing through whatever, right here. They've also started some Spotify playlists, so you can find the bands and favor them and follow them on Spotify too. MTV TV have also got a bloody Patreon, and it's boiling. So go check that out. This is the Art of Rock. So my big question today is, actually there's going to be a lot of it, and this is going to spark lots of conversation, is how do you not give up? That's it. How do you not give up?
Well, what was that about sparking lots of conversation?
Well, come on.
Just jumping right into it. Look, Alex raised his hand. Ivan raised his hand.
Go, Alex, floor is yours. Take it.
Well, I feel like a bit of a fraud because I feel I don't even have really started, but maybe the answer is to examine why you're doing this in the first place. And maybe if nobody would listen to you, or if like you were on an island and never had any connection, would you still make music? For me, the answer would probably be yes. Yeah, maybe that's some way to tackle it.
Thank you so much. Ivan, jump right in there.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Alex on that one. If I was on a desert island, would I still make music? The answer is absolutely yes. No ifs, ands, or buts. I would need a solar collector and a bunch of gear that somehow got there with me, but I would still do it. Yeah, and then the other thing is, don't allow yourself to be largely defined by other people, by through what's been done to you. It's better to define yourself by the fact that you're still here. You're a survivor, so be strong, and don't let some algorithm tell you that you should quit, because screw those guys. Okay, that's me.
Thank you. I totally agree with that, and I want to pick up with that. Razeil, go, please.
I hope there's another thing that you'll pick up with, and that is like what's the challenge? Why do you feel that it's even difficult in the first place to carry on, to push forward? Because I think some of those things have different pep rally cries behind to help get around them. And there's also I have this sort of defeatist, futile feeling that there is no answer. Like if you can't figure that out for yourself, then you're fucked, because there is no motivational battle cry that's going to like change you. And coincidentally, I just wrote about this last night a little bit, so I had my thoughts squared away in that. For me, anyhow, and I hope there's some differences among us all, being told to get productive, being told to don't let perfection be the enemy of good or done, doesn't do anything more than telling somebody to stop having a broken leg or stop being bipolar. It's symptomatic. It's a constellation of other problems that leads me to feeling like giving up or feeling like it's difficult. If there is a solution, I don't know if it's something somebody can tell you or something anybody told me, but I'll find my way back toward the two things about releasing something. If it's difficult, just forget about all of the steps in between and release something. You may need to get on the synthesizer and make some patches and turn on a camera if it's an Instagram, or turn on the recorder. But that process, you're back into it. You're back into the things you love, and you'll be reminded of the pleasure of getting lost in the creation thing, perhaps. And then secondarily, with a goal toward finishing it and putting it out, as I'm going to release a Facebook story about the stuff I'm working on, you'll get the recognition and a little bit of the either camaraderie or criticism or whatever it is that helps ground you in why it's important to carry on publicly, if that's what you choose to do. So it gets that the twofold thing where you're doing the work for the sake of the work and the pleasure of it, and then also the encouragement with a little bit of applause when you finish it. For me, both of those things are buoying and important in different measures.
What does buoying mean?
Like you go with the tide. If things are like a positive flow, you kind of float on top of it a little bit. You're buoyant on top of the positive vibes. I think there's a risk of being mired down in the negative ones at the same time, but motion forward is a little bit more likely if you can just tap into a couple of those thoughts, when I can, anyhow. And then I just to go back to it, like what is difficult? Like if anybody else wants to jump in on it, but Carl, since you brought it up, like I know what difficult feels like for me, but what is giving up the thread of not carrying on with this, I suppose, specific to the music project? What's the texture of that?
So this is not about me. What I'm trying to do is throw open a thing where people can throw in ideas of encouragement. And it's very difficult to see metrics when metrics are going down, and to keep moving forward. It's really hard. When you're just trying so hard, and I see so many bands trying, really putting an effort in, and their Bandcamp sales are zero. They might be having a win for a period on Spotify or something like that because they've been playlisted. But the bugger is when those playlists go away, when you're then taken off a playlist, things crumble a bit. And when you make a post about your music and no one gives a shit, when you release an album and no one gives a shit, when you and it's easy to say, you just don't give a fuck. You be this amazing human being and don't give a fuck. Don't give a fuck about them. But unfortunately, not everybody is neurologically processed, wired like that. You see, some people, like music for some people is about sharing, teaching, or bringing people into worship, for want of a better term. And that's very important for those people. Some people are rebels without applause. Some people are not. So I think for people when they are in this situation, like has been mentioned so far, is remember why you're doing this to start with. And the most wonderful piece of advice is from Bowie, of course, who told Ivor Davies, I believe, you never know who's listening. You never know who's listening to your music. And so it's just important to, it is important to keep going, knowing that the fruits of what you're doing, and that's a real fucker with music, is that the fruits of what you're doing, you may not see for 2 to 5 years, if at all. You might be working on a song right now that you think's the greatest song you've ever written, and you release it and no one gives a fuck. Meanwhile, 3 years later, some track on the album that you thought was, I don't know, it's weird, it gets picked up and everyone's listening to it. You don't know. And that's the strangest thing about making music, is you create something that fuck around and find out. And look, I am going to go back and say, you got to do it for yourself, because the bastard irony of this is that this is your gift to the heavens, to you in the future, to you on your deathbed, going, well, you know what, I did something. It is a gift to the future. It is a gift to you. It is a gift to your sanity. It is a gift for you to do something besides going home and watching Netflix. So that was absolutely pointless, and I apologize. This is why I'm not a therapist. Alex, go.
To be honest, for me, my music already has done its, or like it has been worth it if I even can listen to the finished product myself, or even send it to a friend. That's in itself worth it enough for me. Yeah, and what Razeil asked, what I struggle the most with, and it's just doing new things, but getting them finished without getting too distracted by perfectionism, and yeah, just pushing through the hard parts or the unsexy parts, and not losing track of where I'm at. That's a big one.
Thank you. It is interesting how music is like, the process of music is you are exercising a part of your brain. And Mark, hold your thought. I want to thank you, because I always love hearing what you have to say. It's really curious how your brain's got these different ways of thinking, of solutions. Like, one is the inspiration, where you're inspired and something wonderful happens, which doesn't really happen for me very often. The other one is, well, I need to buckle down and do this now. It feels like it uses a different part of your brain. And that part of your brain is, okay, don't fuck around, we have to do this. Then it adds a bit of like spice to it when it's, well, you have to have this done by 5 o'clock today. And making music on a deadline is a wonderful thing because you don't fuck around. But I'm increasingly learning that there's a wonderful part of your mind, which is the, oops, I fucked that up. I need to fix it. I need to make this better because I broke it. And when you're in that dire problem-solving mode, some wonderful things come out. Yeah, some absolutely incredible things happen in your mind when you're in the oops problem-solving mode. Mark, let me hear your voice.
There. So I wish I had a more universal response to the problem, but for me, the thing that keeps me going is that when I look back, I am farther forward than I was. I can see progress, even though I can't feel it in the moment. Like, I never thought I'd really get anywhere with my music. But then I look back to what I was doing 2 years ago, and I can say, yeah, I'm actually a lot better now. But it didn't feel like that until it took a while to realize that. Um, but as someone who I think has one sale on Bandcamp, like I don't really. I'm in the unique position of like I have a job that will pay my bills, so this is truly just because I want to do it, and so I really don't care. I did it for myself. I said I was gonna make an album, and EP, whatever, and I did it. That is all I needed to do. Is it great? I like it. And one other person said, yeah, and other people, individual tracks have said, yeah. Like I worked on a game jam game, and maybe people are just trying to hype me up, but I've had someone who only barely knows me say, I really liked your work on that. And that feels good, even though I'm like, sure, it was just something I kind of did because it needed to be done. So I guess in short, I would say you have to find something to motivate you to keep going, no matter how small it is, and it doesn't really matter what. As we always, it doesn't matter what other people think. You have to do it for a reason that's important to you as a person.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Razzie, take it. Thanks, Mark.
Mark and Alex both sort of pushed a little bit of a corner case around perfectionism and completion and feeling that you've made your own quality. And one thing about what we call perfectionism is it's not in the world. So it's not so much about making something that is universally, unimpeachably the best. As perfectionism sounds like you're trying to get some platonic ideal state of something, but really it's just about, with your blind spots and your habits and your preferences and your taste, making all of the marks hit on all of the things that you happen to be thinking of at that time, which out in the rest of the world, the chances of that lining up with anybody else's 5 or 6 points of what would be the perfect finished thing are rare. But no matter what you do, you're going to hit somebody's 3 to 5 points of, oh, that's great. I really like that. I mean, there's some extremely minimal ways of doing it, and there's some extremely elaborate and maximal ways of doing it. But the chances of, hitting somebody else's approval marks just because you got to your point of perfectionism, I don't know how much it increases, but there's definitely a curve that diminishing returns. And one of the ways certainly around it is collaboration, community, accountability, sharing some of the tasks of a song and indulge. I mean, that's we're here for it, to buy the best synthesizer we can possibly get and make the coolest sounds with it. But also when there's a point at which you're just, making patches and not turning them into songs. And if your goal is to turn them into songs and, have somebody hear them, finding that point when you are spinning your wheels and saying, okay, who do I know that's going to do the bass part on this and really bring something else in, and letting their version of it be, I like their work. This is now a part of my piece. My own 6 months of editing the kick drum and bass patch so that they dovetail don't matter anymore, because this is great and it's somebody else's contribution, and the perfectionism drive of those arbitrary quality points that you're trying to hit can get really taken apart, and that can be tough. Also, I mean, I realize, and it really only comes into play if you're not just obsessively working on stuff and never want to release it. But if you do want to get finished, find a goal, move on to a new thing, and conceptualize your work as projects that get released, community and accountability and collaboration can definitely, you know, put at least a delineation on where you're stuck, and, you know, offer something to launch off of even. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. There's so many points here that are really interesting that comes down to the question of why. And is it a case of you're losing your why? You know, that why did you get into music in the first place, which got brought up before by Ivan. Thank you again, Ivan. And I don't know, I just think that it's, you don't know what's going on. You don't see the full picture. You just don't. You've just got to keep going. And I need to believe that music for me is somehow healing me, or somehow helping me make sense of the world, which I really sometimes doubt. But yeah. So I think that I just keep feeling like I'm in a mountain and I'm mining, and I'm mining something more wonderful than gold or diamonds. I'm mining for purpose, and I'm mining for higher realization, higher thought, higher meaning. And even within the beats, even within the drones and the music, not just the lyrics, that there is something that is connecting with me on this higher magical level. And it's connecting with other people as well. And, you know, before we started this stream, we were talking about a song that I recently only just discovered. And it hit a chime in my soul, like it hit a chime in me on a very deep level. And it's interesting how I find, you know, in my life, every few years, of the thousands of tracks I hear, there will be one that resonates with me, and it hits the Wang Chun, or the yellow tone, as the Chinese call it. That is a magical golden moment of inspiration, and it's my desire to do that for other people, to write that for other people, not so that I can go, oh yeah, I did this thing. It's just so I wrote something to help someone through the death of someone they love, or through a breakup, or that they will remember as being one of the best days of their life, or an anthem to hope and healing. For me, I guess that's my whole thing, is that I want to write the soundtrack to people's lives, and it's difficult when people stop listening, but people are still listening, and I'm listening. So I don't know, once again, and I just want to say thanks, Kitty Bell, for the conversations on Instagram we've been having this week, but also rejection sensitive dysphoria, which I didn't know about, which is common in autism and ADHD. This is a really interesting thing. Hey, Grim. It's interesting that figuring out how to deal with that shit. And I will always come down to the idea that the internet is poison, and the internet is toxin. It is a terrible. Social media is a horrible toxin, and it's ruining your fucking life. And you can disagree, but I don't care. For me, it is. Some people can drink, some people can't, and I can't drink social media. Does anybody else want to throw anything in at this point? Or we could change the topic.
I had a quick, hopefully on the one of the things that you'd brought up a few times about what will it reach somebody and keep doing it because you think it might. For some reason, there's the three guys from the Police are doing a lot of publicity and press right now, or maybe it's strictly through Rick Beato's doing a lot of interviews with them, and that's represented heavily in my YouTube feed. But I keep seeing them talk, and I think all three of them talk about the beginning of the band and how many times Roxanne was released and died to no fanfare. And, you know, they recorded it as independents, and Stewart's brother Miles could have picked them up and made them superstars at any minute. And they released it again, and I think it was on maybe an independent label, and it didn't go anywhere. And finally they, you know, a third or fourth time after a year or some amount of time, you know, working on the single, Miles recognized it was great and told him to screw everything else they're working on, and that's the single, and that it made a real difference. Just the who's listening kind of angle, and the sort of weird dynamics of how stuff gets out there and does find its own way in the world, you know, when your music actually catches on or lights a fire. And, you know, you can believe in it, but you still, if validation's part of your formula, that's elusive, and you never know where it's going to catch on or how long it might take to catch on.
Thank you. I want to talk about validation again. But first, I want to hear from Ivan. Thank you, Razeil. Thank you.
Okay, so you mentioned two things, you know, the magic and you know, diamonds and gold. Diamonds and gold will only get you so far, and you can't, you know, affect people's, like, you can't transport somebody's mind to another place with physical objects, like with money. You can't do that. Yeah, and again, like, you know, the meeting between, you know, like magical intent and music is powerful. And, you know, there's thousands of years of human history that have continuously reproven that that's a thing. So, you know, oh, it's all right. Kind of all I got at the moment.
Thank you. Okay. We're getting into magic. No, this is good. This is Ivan and Carl against everyone. Okay, hold on. Let's just get to magic in a minute. Everyone just took a deep breath. So here it comes. Any minute now, it's going to come pouring out of mine. Take On Me is one of my favorite stories of failure, and it's, to me, okay, sure, they released it 3 times, and if you can find the 3 versions of Take On Me, they're fantastic. They're awful. They're really awful, and it's interesting that I think that they had the same vocal take in the last 2, the third one that you heard with the cool video, and the one before that, which was not. But it's just a really fantastic failure, where persistence made it work. And it's not they made international hit and money. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that all of these moving parts in a song, it's all of these fucking ideas going on. and its lyrics, and it's is the lyrics, are they just right? And then there's the mix and the choice of the fucking snare and all of this stuff. That, you know, when you break it down, a song is a most miraculous organism that, you know, think about it. It's this fucking organism. And I understand when people go, I have so much trouble writing a song. It's like, yeah, writing a song is really fucking hard because there are all of these things that you have 3 minutes to magically come together and shape the air. Decorate the air, as Tom Waits says. God, I love that. And then if you're putting a video on top of it and everything else, and I learned the name of the girl in that video, and then I forgot her name. It's terrible. She's like the most famous fucking 80s actress because she's in that video, and I think that's all she is in. But anyway, who are the bad guys with the spanners on the bikes? That's what I want to know. That's probably the lighting guy. Anyway, this is one of the things about making music that is fascinating to me. It's not just a problem. Like putting a coherent sentence from my brain to my mouth that people understand, to me is that's a big challenge. For them to agree with or to present it in a way that will change their mind, no, I can't do that. I have tried and I fail. But the ability to put all of this music together that makes sense with the lyrics, that can hit that golden tone inside someone, and then if you want to do a video on top of it, and then I don't want to even think about and talk about marketing, like that is, it's a colossal thing. And it's funny that this, for me, I guess it is addictive. It's like betting on horses or something. It's an addiction because it's, can I get it right this time? The next one, I'm gonna get it right. And sometimes I think hope is the most dangerous fucking thing. But music is an exercise in hope, because you're only doing this because you hope, you believe in yourself, or you believe in something that is going to make your brain come together in this miraculous moment, or months of bashing your head against a wall to actually make this fucking thing happen. And this is why, oh my God, you don't know what it is. It's Close Encounters. There's something here. There's something about this. I'm trying to draw that fucking mountain, but I don't know what it looks like. I'm trying to create this thing, but I don't know what it is. It's interesting how, like, look, in so many other forms of art and whatever, writing, art, music, there's something most curious about the desire to bring this strange spiritual thing into reality. But you can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can smell it, you can eat it. If you're really good, you can eat it. I think cooking is the highest form of art. But with music, it's the most curious thing because you're sculpting air, and then you are leaving this concept in the air, which you cannot touch. You are hoping that it is going to have this strange, profound effect on another human being. Maybe they will buy it. Maybe they won't kill themselves. Maybe they'll go and tell that person that they're crazy in love with them. Maybe they'll tell their job to go fuck themselves and find freedom or something, I don't know. But that's, what the fuck are we doing? Ivan, get me out of this hole now.
You mentioned Take on Me and failure, and in software development, I'd like to point out there is a concept of failing forward. It's broke. Oh, now it's fixed. And I don't don't think that there's a whole lot of difference between that and making music. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Oh, now it sounds amazing. Or I've changed gear. I've changed gears, or something like that, and found the good stuff. Also, let's take a moment to say hi to Jess. She's another musician from Milwaukee.
Hi, Jess.
And a blank ceiling.
Welcome.
Right.
Okay, so and thank you. Failing forward, I wrote that in my notes. You can start a thing on Magic if you want. Did you hear the eyeballs roll?
Oh yeah, no, I could totally hear that. Everybody's like, "Oh, he's not going to do that again." But I mean, there's a long human history of, music plus people equals magic. I mean, like, you can go back to the Torah, and like they're very specific about the importance of music, even on during Shabbat on Saturday in the temple. Music was getting played because that was important, and that was a day when nobody else was allowed to play it. It's a fairly big statement right there. I mean, that's hardcore. And what's the first thing like really crazy religions want to take away from people? Music.
And replace with their safe music, for sure, absolutely.
No, there's a number of them that will just replace it with nothing. So like it just shows how dangerous this stuff is.
Well, Pythagoras did say that music was the most dangerous weapon. He said it was the only thing that could corrupt youth efficiently was music or something. I think that was Pythagoras. One of those guys, real troublemaker. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolute troublemaker, and it gets right down to emotions and like the state of our minds. And it is capable. We are capable of manipulating that state for better or worse. So hopefully better.
It's really fascinating, and this is now turning into a conversation. Why did I just micromanage that? I don't know. So that means you don't need to mute mics. It's curious how see the road to freedom, or intellectual freedom, or some form of fucking enlightenment, whatever the hell that means. I think for me, there's a lot to do. No, there won't be fucking snacks on the road to enlightenment, Razeil. Snacks. The road to enlightenment that doesn't have snacks. If they do, I'll ship them to your mailbox, and you know what?
Oh no! I do not want a package. No, risky. That was in response to it, whether or not I was prepared to drink from the Lord's cup of wrath. By the way, not so much.
Right.
Okay.
Well, okay. So the thing is, I keep feeling that my personal road to enlightenment, which ironically is hell, I think for all of us it's hell, and I apologize to anybody who's even close to my life for the hell that I'm sharing. This music is a massive part of it, because the only fucking thing in the world that makes sense to me is music. That's the only thing that makes sense. There is a geometry in the hummings of that's when he was talking about his he built a blaster beam, actually. So yeah, Pythagoras also, we stole the blaster beam from everything. Look, my personal voyage of enlightenment and trying to fucking make sense of why I am on this planet has a lot to do with music. It is this higher spiritual language, and it gives you hope, and it is a true reflection of another person's experience. And one day I will write a song that is, or maybe I glimmering towards, you know exactly what I'm saying here. That isn't just me screaming, fuck your boss and fuckity fuck and bang, bang, clang, clang. That will be, and I try to so hard. Like, I want to be this amazing McCartney songwriter. But anyway, it's so curious that on my road to enlightenment, that the negative thought to that, the thing that is destroying me, is all of these corporations going, your metrics are down, you need more people to see your things, oh la 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 la. And it is really curious how it is me, this is me bitching about social media again, about how this win-win-win thing that we're in. If you don't have any trouble making music, just buy a fucking synthesizer. No. It's just curious how, it's curious. Chris, Christ brings a sword. Thank you very much, I think. Talk to me, Rezi.
Yeah, I have no idea which of the three things that I wanted to respond to I actually had answers for. You're talking about, well, you launched off of magic and you're talking about enlightenment. And although I respond differently to those turns of phrase, the rest of it were like exactly on the same description of what we're getting at. The reason to bother getting up tomorrow and probably next week and the next month is that the craft, the process, the work, the new synthesizer, the different guitar, the possibilities within things that I haven't learned about how to make music yet, the vast, worldwide variance in how music is put together and how it affects people. Like, those things are hope. They are, I don't have enough time in a lifetime to really do those things. So there's plenty to do, and there's plenty to learn, and there's plenty of, working for a month to get to that 15 minutes of absolute bliss, 15 seconds of absolute bliss, where you make a discovery or you succeed in doing something that you were trying to get to, or something just happens, by random chance that really clicks with you, and you get that elation and you feel that I could do this for another 6 months just to get to this feeling, and that's fine. Doesn't matter what else happens. And as long as you can keep that in the back of your mind, it's the same kind of magic and the same kind of hope and the same kind of, mystical realm enlightenment, I hope that you're talking about. And maybe there's more, when you do have specific rituals and stuff, but I think it's pretty similar. Are interested in what being on the highway to hell means in the chat right now.
I just banned him.
So
yeah.
Seems like that was even in earnest. I mean,
no, it wasn't.
Well, I mean, like, somebody believed in what they were saying, earnest, not it was useful, earnest.
Really good for them, but I just don't really like
That's
people in bullshit.
But when you say you're taking us to hell, I know what you mean. I think we have a cultural parlance and language in our group that we have an understanding, and we can talk about that. And it's sarcastic and it's countercultural and it's certainly part of your brand. So I understand it, but it's difficult when somebody jumps in, unbidden and starts saying things in those same ways. All right. So I had two other things that I was thinking of with those, but I'm going to
jump in.
I want to have to mull them over and figure out what they were, because it was like 5 minutes ago, and
Oh yeah.
I know. But you were talking about, like, specifically reasons to carry on, and we haven't so much connected that with validation. I know you wanted to get back to that in some ways.
Yeah, I will. I think that there's a negative voice, and that negative voice is validation, and it's a part of this is difficult because there's validation, and then there's people listening to your music. And the difficult thing right now is, I believe that there is a change going on in the way that algorithms and blah 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 get music to people, and that's costing listens, and that's costing things are changing. The tectonic plates of the AI, or what the fuck ever, I don't care, seems to be changing right now, and not probably changing for the better. Please, I don't want this to turn into a I hate Spotify conversation. So what's really important is that trying to get music to people, or to hear your voice, because that is important, even when things are changing. And just, I will say briefly, increasingly, I think that algorithms and bullshit, they're just wind. They're just blowing in all these different directions. You are building a pyramid, and on the top of the pyramid is a flag. The wind over billions and trillions of years will wear the pyramid down, but that flag on the top of your pyramid is going to blow all the fuck over the place. Don't focus on the flag, focus on the damn pyramid. And people from a long way away will see a pyramid, and then they'll go, oh, look, there's a flag waving. People are going to disagree with what I just said. I'm just trying to say, just keep fucking making your music, and don't let some fucking robot or people or numbers change you from doing that. This is about your quest and journey. Kind of. Razeil, are you going to help me out here?
Yeah, I think that both it's in always been in some part of the hierarchy of artist, intermediary, fan, to have a bigger part of intermediary, and that power gets consolidated there a lot. And, you know, we're not going to hate on Spotify specifically, but having your public numbers is absolutely just as toxic as advertising, you know, heavy metal guitars to teenagers was in the 70s, and synthesizers in the 80s. You know, like, this is the dream. This is where the middle corporate, I think we say, money churning part of it exists. And the bigger that is, the more it serves itself, and the more difficult it is for us to, I don't know about difficult. Let me walk that back a bit. It remains very difficult for us to tap into a direct connection with people that might want to listen to our stuff. And that validation that you're talking about is important. I feel it. I think that it's fun, and it proves that, you know, if we had an intention with our songs and somebody receives it, that it worked and it was worthwhile externally. And that kind of feedback feels good. It feels like progress. It feels like achievement. It feels like validation, and making the efforts worthwhile that much more, if you hadn't already felt that they were perfectly worthwhile. And that is super important. And it does make it difficult to operate in the face of something that puts a number about how many monthly listeners. That's toxic, as you're saying. That is not a healthy way to approach your stuff, to approach your success, and to approach your, you know, measuring whether what you did was worthwhile. And I don't know exactly how to get around that, but there is some kind of trend always roiling underneath of DIY artists independently reaching people who listen to music and buy music and pay for and collect music and enjoy music and tell people about music. And that connection, I think, in the algorithmic shift that you're talking about, Carl, is ever more important and ever more crucial, but also elusive. The tools that I had found maybe 10, 15 years ago to do direct to fan, small fee involved, but they supported an ecosystem wherein an independent artist could do the bigger distribution and marketing and community maintenance things, they get bought and sold and disappear, and they don't. When larger corporations with other interests buy them up and then kill them or absorb them into their own systems, then we're that much poorer for it. And I'm thinking of a couple of tools that I had used previously in particular, whereas the battle cry or the rallying call right now seems to be, oh yeah, pay Meta, pay Facebook and Instagram a fee, pay Spotify, and it starts seeming wrong. We can explore more why I think that, if anybody else does, but it goes right into that the algorithm seeming like it's changing, and it's that I think it's pretty fair to say the consolidated centers of powerful intermediaries are, they're their own gravity, and they draw that in, and it's let's continue to fight that and find our validation directly with fans and in ourselves.
Thank you. If you want to make money out of music, make it out of the suckers who think they're going to make money out of music. Frank Zappa. Also, thank you, Grim and Kitty Bell, for your kind words about Promise of Gold and Hand of God. I really appreciate that. Also, another song that came to mind was Down to the Ground by Peter Gabriel, which was the closing song in Wall-E, which is just a spiritually beautiful, beautiful song. Alex, talk to me.
I think not only do metrics make you a bit desperate, or not desperate, like they spark despair in you, but I think also they make you not write your best music because you're so preoccupied with what gets clicks that you sort of forget what you actually want to make and what would be the most artistically whole turn for the song. And the second thing I wanted to say, I also think it's okay if life gets in your way, that you take a break from your art. For example, if you have a small kid or so, I think it's like, I've seen it multiple cases and people always come back. So, yeah.
Thank you. Recharge the battery. For Ivan, just hold your thought for a minute. Razeil, I didn't get to thank you for what you said. Thing I love about a lot of the spiels here, when we go on spiels, we don't answer questions. We just ask more questions. So, hey, that's a good question. Here's some more. And we make soup. I'm going to get to you in just 1 minute. Ivan, I just want everybody to pay attention to Alex's window. It's okay. We're watching the sunset over Berlin. Where are you, Alex? You're not in Berlin.
Göttingen.
Yeah, I've been watching that.
And it's really lovely to think that here in LA, it's sort of just creeping. The sun's still on its second coffee, or third coffee, as the rain's coming down. And it's just a very nice reminder that we live on a ball in space. And with the miraculousness of James Webb, that's looking at billions, trillions of suns, they still can't find a planet where 5 grumpy musicians are on Zoom bitching about music, which is the most lovely thought. I can't get my head around that the sun that is setting in your sky is the same one that's there. Isn't that fascinating? My brain can't deal with it. And the amount of people between you and me, including you guys, fucking amazing. Ivan.
Okay, on the algorithm and metrics thing, yeah, I had thoughts on this. Yeah, it seems like the number of big companies involved keeps shrinking, and they have figured out that they can play gatekeeper. Like back in the day, if you went to Music Land, they would provide you with a very limited set of choices, and they drove what they thought should be popular, by simply not carrying something else. You could not go there and get, the latest Dead Can Dance album, because they just decided that, nobody should be able to get that. Game over. And I'm fairly certain that, our big choices that now also would like us to pay them to get views. Well, smells something. It smells like payola. Like eventually I suspect that will be something that they get in trouble for.
That's really, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I mean, somewhere along the line, you'd like to think they'll get in trouble for it. But wait.
Okay. In the delicious question soup, thank you again, Kitty and everyone, and Adam, if you're still there, and Grim, and everyone here. I remember distinctly in the 90s, early 90s, where the music industry was king. And then those indie labels started popping up. And then the majors started buying the indie labels. So if you weren't signed to a major, you didn't exist, and indie labels didn't exist. But the indie labels started getting bought up. Then kid named Napster fucked everything. Whether they fucked them for the good or the bad, I still don't know. But hey, it is what it is. And then suddenly everybody's downloading your music. And then there was MySpace. And MySpace, I think, was the greatest thing to happen to music. I think it was the greatest thing to happen to music was MySpace. And, Timberlake or Timberland now owns MySpace. He bought it for a song and he's trying to resurrect it. And anyway, I don't know. But then all this other stuff happened because MySpace was about music. And then Bandcamp happened, and then this happened, and then that died, and then this happened, and then that died. But what remained through the whole thing were musicians bashing their head against a wall trying to write a good song. That the musicians are here on Musician Island, and over that ocean are people who want to listen to Music Island continent. And the only way you're going to get your music, which is a little message in a bottle. See what I did there? The only way you're welcome. The only way you're going to get it in there is option one, throw it in the ocean and hope like hell it turns up on the shores, and let the algorithmic current streams that, as Ivan did pointed out, in some way or another have always existed. But whether they end up over on that shore or in Antarctica where no one gives a shit, or on the one thing you don't want is for your fucking message in a bottle to end up on another island full of musicians. You don't want that. My God. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, sending out a fucking SOS. The other way you can do it is to pay some person in a boat. Just make sure they're not wearing a robe, and it's accidentally the river fucking Styx. Thank you, Grim. That was a call out to Grim. And that's always been the model, that you can sell it at a gig or whatever, or, I guess that, Ivan, you are right. Now you're an empty chair. But it's just fucking fascinating how, and then when they figure out they're going to hone their website until it can make money, and then they're going to make money. And then suddenly they disappear while another one turns up. And, you look at these things already and blah, 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 blah. Everybody's fucking, I don't know. Just keep making music. You bastard. Razeil, go.
It's weird, Ivan. You mentioned mainstream record store and Dead Can Dance. And Coincidentally, I think I had the opposite experience with that. Did I make your camera disappear in
No,
referencing this?
he's talking to somebody.
Oh,
He's talking to the
Well,
government.
yeah.
I'm on the phone with them now. Go ahead.
Since Ivan's not going to hear this anyway. No, I found that I discovered Dead Can Dance just by the name of the band and their album art before I was aware of 4AD Records in a regular, I don't know, Strawberries, Sam Goody chain store where the rack jobbers were putting stuff. Store owners in those
Rack
chains.
jobbers.
Yeah. Major labels worked with history. Distributors, the distributors had representatives in the local areas where they would take the merchandise and put it in the shelves. Store owners didn't really have much of a say over what went in the racks. But some shops did have their own rack jobs. Some had local visitors, but rack jobbers was the term for the people that went around with the merchandise and put it in the places, weirdly. I happened to, just by the name of the band and the weird skeletons dancing artwork on the thing, I was like, oh, this is like something interesting. And I hadn't heard of them yet. But 4AD is another interesting case where, they had a pipeline ostensibly as an independent to Beggars, which, what major were they associated with? I don't know. But that's still like that kind of escalator of indie artist, indie label, major with distro kind of chain. And they fumbled it pretty bad with, the first single, Bauhaus's first single went 4AD to Beggars, and I think the first album was on Beggars too. And they didn't know what to do with it. It just didn't make sense to them. They, that's where my memory of the history kind of ends. This is a long time ago, and I haven't thought about it much, but it's weird. Like, one of the most influential bands in the genre, two of them, if you're talking about Dead Can Dance, but once they made the jump from somebody who got the stuff, and Evo Watts Russell deciding personally he liked it, puts it out on his label, versus the major affiliated labels just dropping it. And man, sometimes it takes time to nurture this stuff, and a deep understanding in a community, and a sense of involvement or personal investment in the thing. Weird.
Thank you. What does your cat's head smell like?
She smells a little like, usually she smells like a barnyard. Today,
Really?
totally neutral. Just neutral.
Interesting.
Smells like air.
Sometimes they smell like cake.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, thank you.
Off.
She did that herself.
She did. I don't even know what she did, but she did that.
It would be really funny is now if we heard the sound of you dying. There you go. It has begun.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, Ivan, go.
Yeah, I mean, also back in the 4AD Beggars Banquet, Bauhaus, Dead Can Dance days, record stores, their sales numbers didn't reflect what they were reporting, because they could report what they wanted, not what was coming off the register. And so there was a lot of misreporting going on back then. And that's reflected because, when it was 91 when we switched to that all being automated away from them. And as soon as their grubby little fingers were out of it, the charts changed dramatically.
I'm talking about SoundScan.
Yeah. I mean, that did not care what people thought. It just cared what people bought.
Yeah, if you don't mind me jumping in, that exists to this day, and I still see it referenced on some of the reporting bodies, like that will get you on SoundScan. It's hard to relate to even what that means or what that would do for somebody. These, even while some of our friends are charting on DAC and other things like around the world, it's, what does it mean?
Okay. I had something really fascinating to say, but I forgot what it was. Apparently you have to pay to get reviewed by the DAC. There's a fee. There you go. But I will say that, you know, the thing I am grateful for of all the advances in technology is that there's no fucking way that a band like me 20, 30 years ago would have been getting the plays per month that I get now. Thank you, streaming media. And be paid for it. Even we could debate about how small that is, but so that's a good thing. I think, you know, there's a lot of good steps going on. This is a nice soup we have going, and Razeil, I see your hand. Please add some pickles to the soup or something.
Sauerkraut.
Yeah, let's do that.
The difference between streaming and purchases, like I've seen it mainly Bandcamp is the differentiator in this. Like they seem, I don't know how many times they've changed hands, and I've said this 3 times in the past month, like I'm not exactly sure who owns them now, but since there might be a few people left there, for people that understand the company, I've heard it's possible that things will be okay. I don't really know how that works, but the Bandcamp Friday and people paying more than the asking price of the thing, and people buying music, you know, owning a license themselves like that, it's tough, very tough to calculate enough, to clock enough spins, like streaming plays, to equal a single purchase of a single song on Bandcamp, especially if they're paying you $2 instead of $1, or, you know, for an album 15 instead of 7, whatever the thing is. That is a lot of plays, and they own it, and or the license, you know, they own their own license for the music, and they can have the files. And Bandcamp fosters a relationship sort of indirectly with the listeners too. You know, there's a difference between, you know, 100 people streaming it and never knowing a single one of them, except for some course demographics that a couple of them are in Europe and some of them are in the States, versus DJ Jimmy just downloaded your stuff because you sent a letter to the mailing list on Bandcamp. And I think that's nice. I don't know. Am I missing why this is truly evil and a terrible thing? But it's the closest to direct validation and community building, and you know, working directly with listeners, and maybe almost feels personal. I don't know. It seems pretty amazing though. I don't know. That's not a question even.
Yeah, Bandcamp is good. I have a very slight problem with their with the commission system, but who cares? It's good because you've got a lot of tools at your hands, and, you know, if you give stuff away for free, you can be getting people's emails, which direct marketing is the biggest. Oh my God.
Your own mailing list.
Holy shit, that is golden. Yeah, do we want to we can keep going on this one gladly, or we can change subject, because I feel like we kind of are changing subject right now, or are we happy keeping going on this?
Take it where you go. You haven't been here in a couple weeks.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy. I'm enjoying the fluid of the soup.
It's still soup.
It is.
Baby, you got a stew going.
Alex?
I would have another topic if you want to.
Sure, as long as it's not tax.
Okay, so how do I file? Anyway, I saw a video by a guy called Dave Red, who is like a really big mixing engineer for like Red Hot Chili Peppers and such. And he talked about comb filtering from stereo. And he said, like,
hold on, he talked about what?
Comb filtering. So
comb filtering. Okay, sure.
Yeah, the basic idea is that if you have stereo speakers and mono signals on both, there will areas in the audience where the phases of the both speaker signals will cancel each other out. So the respective frequencies won't be there, basically. And he said that's why he tries to stereo mic everything. So I don't know how true that is, because the frequencies probably will be the same anyway of the kick drum and such. But I thought, maybe I should worry more about getting my sources more stereo. And I want to ask what your approaches to that is, and maybe if stereo kick drums are a good idea or a bad idea.
What an interesting question. I'd love to hear Razzie's thoughts on this.
First off, Dave Ratt's really great. Like, he's so mellow, and he's definitely testing stuff empirically, and he puts scopes up and he does measurements, and I don't know if his mixes are any good. I have no idea, but he's not really telling you how to mix. He's telling you this situation will cause this effect. Let's measure it. He'll take apart a mixer. He'll compare the channel of a digital expensive version to a digital cheap version and A/B the scopes. And he makes products also. So he's sometimes selling solutions to these things, and he is a live sound engineer. But the main takeaway is that he generally poses a hypothesis and then tests and then has an outcome, and it's led him down some really interesting paths, and it's very worth following some of his following his channel and watching some of his videos. The thing that he's talking about is kind of specific to live sound support, and speaker placement and array design has changed so much as he's been in the business, and partly by his designs, have been adopted. But what he's watching out for is, let me just elaborate a little on what Alex was talking about. If you've got 50 hertz fundamental on your kick drum and it comes through both speakers and bounces off the walls differently and then comes back halfway, and the half of that frequency is going up in air pressure and half of that frequency is going down in air pressure, you're going to disappear. You're not going to hear it at this spot in the hall. And that is unavoidable to some extent, depending on the design of the things. If you've got a square room, it's going to happen like at some frequencies. If you've got a skewed room, it's probably not going to happen nearly as much, but there's going to be some dimension of any room where you put in energy, it reflects back opposite energetically, where the high pressure wave front is meeting the low pressure wave front, and boom, they cancel out to exactly zero and you hear nothing. One of the ways that he was talking about getting around that is to just not have the same thing coming out of both speakers. So you eliminate one of the paths, which is at some place in the room, you're going to have timing differences from a stereo house that'll do the same thing as I was describing. And by having different components in each of those signals, you reduce the likelihood of any two frequencies actually coming back anywhere in the room 180 out of phase. So to get to an actual question and answer of my opinion is, you don't have to worry about that in the mix where you don't know what the room is going to do for the listener. If you want to be kind to them and you put some, some widening on stuff so that there's nothing similar when you look on your phase meter between the two channels, I mean, it's an interesting effect, but listen to what it does. You're going to find hollow spots when you're listening in headphones. You're going to find cancellation points just by the nature of, adding this out of phase information. So long way of getting to, yeah, in your room, you can do some of that stuff too, but in the mix, it's not really, that's not what he's getting at so much. Like a recording where you don't know what the room is. He's talking about, what room you're in because you're in it and you're mixing, and the ability to put something slightly different between the two speakers and, avoid some of the really deep phase cancellations, or the opposite, when the two waves meet at, high pressures and they reinforce themselves and you get a howling, peak. You can predict some of that and you can put a microphone around and measure it. You can, change your phase relationships of the waveforms, or you can just put two different samples in the left and right. I think he might have talked about doing that to try to reduce some of the stuff. So yeah, in your listening environment, there are things you can do to make it more comfortable if you have nulls and modes and nodes. And in a live situation, definitely interesting. And we're designing our flown arrays and speaker dispersions to try to avoid some of that stuff. But from a mix perspective, it's you don't know where it's going to end up, so you can't really account for it. Although that would be a really cool custom music service. Like if people enter the dimensions of their room and you make custom mixes to account for the nodes and modes in their listening environment, you're going to make $1 million. I'm not going to do it though.
That was epic. We need to have rant awards. That was a rant. That was great, man. Thank you. That was good. That was good. In fact, you need someone to come out now with a towel. Like, no, almost,
James Brown with the,
yeah, I'm
the
thinking
cape.
the James Brown towel. Anyway, yeah, thank you. There was a lot in that, man. Thank you so much. If I was to add anything to this, look, if Mr. Rat, it's Mr. Rat. If Mr. Rat is using science, I can't argue it. But what I will say is that I try and keep everything under 150 mono, because that's just me. I'm just that guy. Or you mean that under 150 hertz mono guy? That's me. I have known people who will put a kick drum with nothing under like 500 or something, like, so it's just this top end thing, hard left and right, and it's a really great trick because it helps point out where the kick drum is. And it's actually a really good thing. I think it's probably a really good idea to do shit like that, because you got to remember that on people's phones and stuff, kick drums are going to get lost. I remember I used to do some work with a guy, and he'd drop one side, he'd sample the kick drum, he'd have a thick one in the middle, mono, deep, and then another one's hard left and right, and they were detuned by one semitone. And it was great. And if there was something complicated going on, these guys would be talking about it. The ones hard left and right, the dead center one wouldn't be talking too much. That's it. Alex?
Sorry, I lost my mouse. Okay, then the next question is then for maybe enhancement of spatiality or listening experience. How do you make things more stereo? What tricks do you use? And yeah, maybe how do you convert mono sources to stereo? And do you sometimes do patches of synthesizers where maybe the left channel is a bit detuned to the right channel or something? Because I have at least one synthesizer that can do that.
Fantastic, thank you. I think Razeil has got some amazing rantage.
It may not be as extensive as the last one, but there's two things that come to mind. We may be used to the bottom mono, not because it exists in nature so much, but because when you are cutting an LP or whatever vinyl in stereo, the physics dictate that. And we have a long history of listening because of records. There are a lot of years of records, even though we've also gone beyond that. But if you put, like, okay, there's your vinyl groove and the needle is traveling along it, and boom, oh geez, too much bass. Boom, oh, too much bass on one side. You can kick the needle literally right out of the groove. So they would master the stuff with less low end, and certainly keeping your bass in phase so that both axes of the needle were receiving the same information and not pushing it off to one side and ruining its sensitivity. There were physics reasons for the manufacturing of LPs and singles of vinyl records that brought us to being that guy where everything under 100 is mono, and that sounding like what we're used to. But in a room, you're probably like listening to a very stereo version of bass, no matter what it is. Like, in a concert setting, if somebody's banging a bass drum or playing a contrabass, you're receiving a full stereo version of that, even though, yeah, the low end waves propagate more directly and they're longer and they bounce less because of the energy and stuff. So you're getting more direct. So there's a lot of little physical reasons, but that is no reason not to go full stereo wide if you feel like it, if it serves a thing. Not if you want a focused kick. That's not a good reason. But if you want a spatial experience, and Alex, you mentioned that, for spatially wide, play it twice. Don't quantize. Left, right. Play them real accurately so they sound the same. And my funsies are trying to make them identical. You know, if it's a guitar part, I played it. Oh, it's a little late, a little early. Okay. And then maybe I'll go move the notes around so that they kind of match, or use one of the utilities that'll actually force your transients to be on the same exact, millisecond. But you still end up with a different part with different tuning and different feel and different dynamics. Pan them left, right, super wide. It's fun. Do the same with synthesizers. Play your part, quantize that one, play along with it. Don't quantize that one. The tuning is going to be different. It's a different synth. It's not using the same, synth engine. It could be the same patch instantiated on two different channels, but you get it super wide, and maybe you put one up in the middle too. I don't know. Maybe there's a different patch in the middle, but it's a surefire way to get perceptual huge width. And like for metal guitars and stuff, that was pretty big at one point. Kind of diffuse. It's not a super tight sound, but it's very wide. Play it twice. Yeah, that's one of the ways. That's one thing I like to do. There's probably a million others.
Thank you. That was a great rant. Please know that I'm not taking the piss out of you, but I'm taking the piss out of everybody. Can we go around now and say stereo like your Stan Ridgway from Wall of Voodoo? I'll start. Stereo.
Oleo.
Stereo.
For some reason, as soon as you said stereo, I had this accordion in my head going, but da 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 da.
Did you know I put that? I put that as the audio track for a post just yesterday.
Did you?
On Instagram? Yeah, that was my clip 2 days ago. I had a picture of me in Texas.
Dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Fucking, what is it? Sammy's Playhouse or something? The one that's got Far Side of Crazy. Great album. It's not on streaming services. Just as I wanted to fire stuff at fucking Ivan, off he goes. So what I'm going to say is thank you, Rezi. That was a great rant. It's really interesting how with drums, they're mic'd with one mic. But then you got the OH, you got the overheads up here, panned hard left and hard right. And usually the drums within the stereo field, they're, hold on, so there's my hard left, hard right, where my OH are, my overheads are. I'm so used to calling them OH. But the drums are all usually within 30, 50% of the field, but they're spread. It's the overheads that have got them spread. It's very rare to find drums panned hard left and right, unless you Phil Collins and they're toms. So that's one interesting thought. I love the idea of binaural is something I would love to talk about because I just don't get it. And I'm not talking about, like Kerry was talking about binaural from a meditation process, which was interesting, but also the mixing, the thing that's on Apple now to make it sound like it's three-dimensional. There's always some three-dimensional thing, isn't there? If it's not binaural, then it's Q sound. Anybody remember Q sound? Now of course, yeah, I know. Well, there's somebody playing drums next door. But anyway, these are all really great ideas. Something that I figured out that I absolutely loved is you have your pads or something with a really either a short gate or a long fucking reverb, depending on the sound. Never underestimate the power of a short gate, stereo gate, and you throw your string hard left. The reverb for that string goes hard right, or even better, you throw the string 50% left. 50% left, and its reverb is hard right, and the other one you throw the string 50% right and the reverb's hard left. Because the trick about a stereo field is that it's the entire field. It's not just sound specifically coming from these areas, I think. And what's really fantastic also is that in your verses, if you try and keep the spread here, like the 50% place, but when it hits the chorus, it opens up. And that might include those sounds that you've talked about that open up. Or maybe that isn't important. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Van fucking Halen. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. Van Halen.
I don't even know how, like, I don't know what the percentage mix is. It sounds like it's 100% dry with 100% reverb on the guitars. But the effect, once the band is in there, doesn't sound like that. It's baffling, but it is really, as far as examples of left, right, hard panned, source, and verb, that's, you know,
Van fucking Halen.
Yeah.
As far as everything goes,
True.
Van Halen. Okay, that's all I got.
Did you want to get into binaural versus stereo?
I'd love to. Anybody who knows anything about this, go.
Yeah, I have opinions about spatial audio, which I've brought up a couple of times in the past month. I don't know if it's played out yet, but I also have, at least to mention, stereo is when your head and outer ear are making reflections and modifying the sound so that your right speaker hits you here and hits your left ear in that way, and your left speaker hits you here and hits your right ear that way. That's stereo. You hear it mostly from this ear to that speaker mostly, but you also get both and the room. Binaural is the opposite of that, like headphones or a dummy head with microphones in the ears, where the source is simulating those effects. I mean, the recording device or the speakers are simulating those effects. Headphones, you don't get anything in the opposite ear. Binaural. Stereo, the room has effects, the head occlusion and ears have effects. And binaural beats in specific are a fun way of simulating the psychological beating effect between frequencies when you pan one thing to one ear and the other. But I don't think there's I don't have as much to talk about that. But since you mentioned it, it uses the effect of isolation so that even though 50 hertz and 51 hertz are not playing in the room, interacting with each other, they're going in one ear and one in the other ear, you're still getting that 1 hertz throbbing as a psychoacoustic effect, which is interesting. I don't think there's anything much more to it other than, yeah, music is a psychoacoustic phenomenon. We think we can agree there. But I assume there's still an argument, and I know that Rob has a different perspective on this, but I haven't found it proven to me. I haven't found the experience of simulated head HRTF, head related transfer stuff like Apple Spatial, Dolby Spatial, Q Sound, any of those. I haven't found them to be very fun to listen to, and I don't find that there's a lot of applications for music mixes with HRTF, simulated binaural rooms. 5.1 and surround and real speakers and height, well, maybe there's something there. It could be. I don't have a system. But the head tracked simulated transfer stuff that adds a dumb sounding shitty reverb room ambience and locks the source virtually so that when you move your head, even if you're using headphones, it compensates for that and makes it sound as though it's coming from a fixed source. It's not the way I want to listen to music. It's a mix that the computer will impose on the stuff, that the algorithmic extra reverb, but I don't find it any more compelling than the club, church, hall buttons on a Dolby system hi-fi from the 80s. I hated those. Don't do that to my music. I made a nice mix. Don't put that on there. Why? That's a dry snare drum and a dry vocal. Why do you want them to sound like they're in a poor digital ping pong ball bearings in a pie pan digital reverb simulation? Anyway, well, you done it. I had no choice. Now I have to do a 5.1 mix so it actually delivers and that doesn't get engaged. In the same way, Atmos simulations when they fold down to stereo and you get the simulated height based on somebody else's outer ear, based on somebody else's head-related transfer function. Not fun. I'm not into that. That said, I've scanned my own, outer ear thing with the phone, and it made some difference in having a more convincing height simulation. But I don't want to listen to music that way. I want it to be pumped into my earphones and sound like it's coming from that phantom weird middle psychoacoustic spot in my head, not a computer generated digital room and localization effect. That's not fun for me. I want to hear what the artist, engineer, mastering guy, and whatever, that system. I don't really need it to have the simulation introduced. Virtual reality or augmented reality, perhaps it needs to be done because it's part of the presentation. But for music listening, nah.
Thank you. That was great. Yeah, it's really funny that a lot of these things I see as, and I don't want to sound like that guy, but I'm concerned about the longevity of a lot of this technology. I'm concerned about putting all of this work into stuff and then going, well, in 15 years' time, they won't have blah, 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 blah. They'll still have stereo, and it doesn't matter what codec you're using, they'll still have stereo. Like, I really want to do something 5.1, but who has a 5.1 setup? Right?
Yeah, I set one up for a week and I had to use the speakers for other things.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know. I would fucking love to blah, 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 but I can't. It's just, then that gets onto the extremely depressing topic of printing DVDs and CDs. Ivan, I want to hear your amazingness go.
I think 5.1 and Atmos have proven that they do have a useful place. Movie theaters.
Yes.
Game over. A good movie mixed in 5.1 is made better because it becomes more immersive, which is great. And I've been in living rooms where very expensive 5.1 setups were employed, and yes, it does make a difference there as well. But for just listening to music, what's the point? I can't understand the point. It doesn't really add anything to it. It really the most you're going to accomplish is, especially with Atmos now, is like using spatial audio's understanding of where you are in the room and what direction you're facing. It's just going to mess with the mix. Game over. And nobody's got it, except for like hardcore audiophiles that and you can get it as an option on one vehicle. Yay, Apple. Don't think so. It doesn't matter.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. I agree with a lot of that. And what I don't agree with, I don't know. So technically, I don't agree with. I appreciate this. Razeil, I need you to fill my head with magic.
Ivan, I think you're spot on opinion-wise, but it is an opinion, and I will cop to that. I set up a 7.1 array and listened to everything Apple had on offer because there's not a lot of other places at this time to stream multi-channel Atmos encoded audio. I didn't have height channels. I did have what were the two? I don't know. I had 5 plus the 2. I don't know what the extra 2 channels. Maybe they were mids. I don't remember. Maybe they were height. It was a long time ago. Some of the mixes were intentional. Like, it was cool. Okay, there's extra speakers. We'll put stuff in the extra speakers. Some of them were whizzing things around in the same way that, like, oh my God, it's psychedelic. It's going left to right was in the 60s or 70s when, late 60s when they were having stereo happen. And I think it's possible that at some point when the special effects of playing music in a multi-channel system are gone and you really, really intentionally once in the album fly something in from a height and it comes to center, spatially located near your face. Oh, that was compelling. But we're not at that point yet. So yes, maybe there's a future where speakers and amplifiers and the installation there of them are easy enough because the computer can tell you if it's in the right place or compensate for it being in the wrong place, and they're cheap and everybody's got them. Cars, home theater, maybe your hi-fi lounge listening room in your mid-century modern rumpus room or rec room in the basement. I don't know, maybe that'll happen. And when it does, it's okay. It's cool. There's things you can do with the extra speakers that might be a little compelling, but we listened to the Beatles mixing all of their drums on the left side and the bass on the right, and we're like, whoa, okay, that was fun. You did your thing. Carl, are you
I think I'm still here.
Yeah, you're still on, and we haven't lost your visuals.
Okay.
So have you lost us or
No, you're here.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I can wrap up too, and just saying that having these technologies get cheaper and be promulgated on us by companies like Dolby that really, really, really like want their licenses used for stuff is okay, but like flying the guitar solo around the 5 channels and height channel for no good reason except you have a 3D pan pot now. I mean, not necessarily the most tasteful mix decision I've ever heard.
My desk has a joystick on it. Never used it. It's got a 5.1 and a 7.1 joystick on it.
Nice. So it'll be like height and then
I know.
Right,
but it looks good. It looks good. I think joysticks make like a music studio look cool. I now have 4. I have 3 on my modular and 1 on my mixing desk, and it's like whoa. Hey, check out Mr. Nothing Stereo Below 150 and 4 joystick quadra joystick guy.
Welcome to the 3rd dimension.
That's me, or multiple dimension in this case, because there's a lot of Z's going on in my room. Thanks. So look out. Here I come. It is interesting that you only have 2 ears, and usually music sources are coming from there in front of you. So therefore 2 ears are just fine. I do love, I want to do a 5.1 Ice Planet 9000 thing. And look, I'll be honest, the thing that's stopping me is the budget thing of it, because it's at a point now where it's like, it's harder for me to, I don't know how to send 5.1 files digitally. I'm sure they exist.
For distro, you can't, I think. Yet, unless you're on Sony or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Or if you're selling them directly from your website or something like that. I don't even know what the files are. Are they MP4 files? Gee, I don't know. Alex is looking it up. Thank you, Alex.
You just add extra channels to any file format that supports it, which I think M4A, okay,
I hate M4A.
But whatever it is, yeah.
Whatever.
WAV.
He's about to tell us, thank you, Alex. The first problem is how many people are going to hear it. The second problem is the amount of time and money it is for me to master it and to get it done and do it and da-da-da-da-da. Because I think Ice Planet 9000 and 5.1, I could make that a fucking beautiful experience, because Ice Planet 9000, there's a lot of little parts in it where that ARP line is now a little meteor that's going front to back, or it's going across the room really slowly. There's a lot of places where I could, do that, but my issue is I just don't, Okay. Mark, I see your hand. I want to hear your voice.
Yeah, on the Ice Planet thing. It wouldn't be a full album, but have you considered maybe doing a 5.1 like small visualizer style experience? Because then if it's already a video file, that easily can have 5.1 sound.
That's a great idea. Because I've already got, believe it or not, I've got like 5 or 6 videos for that album. which incidentally, the digitals probably drop Monday. It's out on, the whole thing is out on Spotify and digitals on Monday. I'm trying to release the Bandcamp on Monday. But you know what? Maybe that could be a really fun thing to do. I don't know how to master it, but really with Ice Planet 9000, do you have to? So, and I'd also have to figure out how the fuck do I mix this thing, because I don't have a 5.1, I don't have a setup. But I got to figure it out. And as I would really love to, I'd love to do it, and it would be fun. You can't play 5.1 on YouTube, can you?
Yeah.
You can?
I could believe that, yeah.
Yeah.
YouTube supports 5.1. Okay, and then it would bust it into stereo if that's an option.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do that. Brent would be all over that. Yeah. That's another thing I think I wanted to touch on at the opening of this thing, that, and thank you very much for everybody's input, really helped me through it, is when you don't have many people listening to your music, it affects, and you don't have a large income and the music's not self-supportive, it affects the way that the artwork is made. It affects the way the mastering gets done. It affects how you produce it. It affects how much money you can spend on artwork. It affects these things. And that's hard when you've got some brilliant ideas and you really want to press them on vinyl, but the minimum run of vinyl is 150 and you're only going to sell 50 of them. Yeah. And you can do printing on demand with vinyl, but the artwork and everything else is just, it's hard. It's hard because you've got crazy dreams, blah, blah, blah. And even, look, I'll be honest, I don't even know how many CDs I'm going to be pushing in the future, just because people don't have CD players anymore. Although I will say I just bought a DVD CD player off eBay, and I bought a whole bunch of Indiana Jones and Lord of the Rings VHS for like $2. And it's great just to sit there and watch shit. Razeil, go.
Talking about choosing your product mix there reminded me, back at the beginning, you were talking about what you decide to give to your patrons. One, can you talk a little bit about, from your perspective, how you've come up with which things are free and how you decide what goes to where in your product mix a little bit? And also, just broached t-shirts and print on demand in the same, no, maybe you didn't say t-shirts. Maybe I thought t-shirts. You said print on demand for vinyl, and I thought t-shirts also. So maybe we can wrap up with a little bit of criticism on the different techniques and the value of those things for fans too.
Okay. Oh, well, this is another great thing because, you know, okay, we'll get to t-shirts. The deal with the Patreon is I am sending increasingly more demo tracks to Patreon to go, this is what's going on. This is not a final mix, probably final synthesizers, demo vocals. And I've never done that. And the reason I'm doing that is to, firstly, I want people in Patreon to go, wow, I got demo tracks. Which is something I never religiously never do. But now I'm doing that because I want people to feel like they're they're a part of the process and they can hear Carl's awful fucking vocals. And then when they get the, sometimes they are final vocals because sometimes that's how songs work. Then when they get a free copy of the album, because when the album gets dropped on Bandcamp, Patreon members get a free Bandcamp download link, regardless of how long they've been a part of the journey with me. They so they can hear the difference if they want. Some people don't want. That's fine, whatever. I've never done print on demand music before because I'm old school and I'm not used to it. I need to figure out how I push my stuff more totally digital, because having something in your hand that you can look at and flip through and smell is much more valuable than digital. And because of the demographic that I'm playing in within Ice Planet 9000 and Angelspit, there's just something about people want those little zines, and people want stuff, and people want pins, because there's still a memory of what punk used to be or whatever. And I'm trying to fulfill that. It's becoming difficult and harder for me to do that because of minimum runs of things. Getting those boxes made was something really cool that I really wanted to do. It cost me money. I ran at a loss, in fact. Anyway, but it was cool. And hey, if you guys ever want boxes, t-shirts are harder because I don't like print-on-demand t-shirts. I don't like the way they feel on me. And there's so many places. Yeah, but it was cool. Yeah, thanks. There's so many places that I've got some print-on-demand shirts, and it's like, I hate these. I just hate them. I prefer screen printing. And with the Ice Planet 9000, it was one of the lowest. And I thank God for Angry Girl in Los Angeles. Angry Girl. If you want to get t-shirts printed, Angry Girl in Los Angeles. They're punk rock printing, and they're screen printing, and they give a shit. They give a shit about your art. I'm sorry, I just realized I was yelling Angry Girl and nobody knew what the fuck I was talking about. That's Michelle and her crew, and they're great, and they will fucking bend over backwards to make your fucking shit happen. And it's interesting because the new Ice Planet 9000 is one of the lowest t-shirt orders that I have done. And because of the price point of it, it's made it hard. And I always try and do t-shirts in such a way that I can bundle them with stuff and still be price effective. But unfortunately, this wasn't. And this is the first time that print on demand was a very similar financial viability to getting stuff screen printed. You don't want to screen print stuff if it's below 40 because it's not cost effective. But if you do 50 and it's your band name and it's one color, that could work. It might take you a year or two to sell them, but you've still got, that's another thing about when things don't go according to plan, is that, when you do a Kickstarter or something like, well, we're going to do a Kickstarter. The thing is, we're going to do this cool thing. Now, in order for you to create that cool thing, you have to mass produce it because you can't do it by hand. Brent, who is fucking genius at merch, Brent is, he did merch for KMFDM and Lords of Acid and so many other bands. And Brent is the driving force behind Ice Planet 9000. Because the whole thing is a visual thing that's telling a story. So merchandise is important. And that's why Brent said, okay, well, I want to have this spaceship explodes. So I want to have a piece of the spaceship. So we're going to get those Angelspit boxes and we're going to make them look like they're parts of the computer or something from a spaceship that exploded. And Brent actually, because he's from Texas, they are building these pieces of spaceship that got blown up, and they're like this big, and they're bits of circuit board and all of this other stuff. And they were sitting down, him and Jason were sitting down talking about going, okay, well, if we were going to build this thing that got, and if you got the deluxe box, you get a piece of exploded spaceship. We're going to build the circuitry and all this other stuff, but we have to emulate what it's like to be decombobulated at 20,000 miles an hour. So they took it out into the middle of nowhere, took one of their Texan high-powered rifles, shot the shit out of this thing, because that's what would happen. That's what it would look like. You were dealing with pieces of metal and stuff that are coming off a spaceship at the speed of a bullet. So I'm really glad they have fun making that. And it's not something I would think about, but Brent surrounds himself with crazy artists, crazy sculptors who do crazy things, and it's inspiring. It's inspiring. The guy's a fucking genius. I love him. So I think that and I'm prattling, I'm sorry. The thing I have learned is that there is a balance between here is something mass produced from China, because everything mass produced these days in China, there's nothing in America. I'm sorry. That's the fact. Here's something mass produced from China, and here's something I made with my hands. That is hand built, hand printed, hand whatever. And there's a balance. And I think increasingly for Patreon, for Kickstarters and stuff, I'm moving towards the handmade stuff because I can't afford to get stuff mass produced anymore. And it's way more fun to me to sit down here at my table with my paints and make a whole bunch of art while watching VHSs, listening to music. But that's just me. Razeil, go.
Did you know that at orbital velocities, a flake of paint colliding with the hull of your spaceship is going to put a grapefruit-sized explosion hole? Yeah, it's crazy.
And Earth officially now has a ring.
Yeah, space
It
junk.
has a ring of junk.
We need computerized lasers.
Insane.
I know.
Insane. Anyway.
Reclaim your junk when you put up a spaceship, guys.
Yeah.
Reclaim your debris.
Yeah.
Come on.
I just also think, like, yeah, to make art, if we got to the point where we could collect that shit and turn it into art, like, dude, I would fucking buy it. Would probably have like gamma radiation and shit like that, but it's like, hey, come on, it's for art though.
Exactly.
Come on.
Thorium lenses and
Yeah.
gamma ray infused paint flecks from your CD that you sent to space
Yeah.
to make it more interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, what's oh, go ahead. Did you want
No, go.
The question between plastisol screen prints, regular, classic, crusty, they crack after a few washes and they age in a certain way. Old people stuff, like I'm totally into that. But man, I've talked to a few people and they're like, oh, discharge inks, man, right into the garment. There's no, there's no thickness. Like people like that. And the difference between direct to garment and any other kind of screen printed discharge inks, it's not that big a difference anymore. You know, I don't know what it means. I'm not sure where I'm going with it, but people like it, and you like discharge inks too, and so
I don't know.
It's tough.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
This phrase "super soft" always comes up whenever anybody's talking about t-shirts. I'm like, well, give me the coarse, heavy one that hurts to wear. I want that one. That'll make it.
Well, and here's another thing is that within my demographic, because I get to see my demographic, I look at this demographic and I go, these are rock and rollers. And these are rock and rollers who have an expectation with this stuff. And if they see something that is going to be a, like a print-on-demand laser printed thing, they're not going to be appreciative of it. Yeah. They want screen printing stuff. And Angelspit's always done that. And I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. And like, man, I want to go through and I want to start printing old t-shirts again, but there's an economic reality with that it's an outlay and XYZ. Yeah. Anyway, Alex.
So, of course, I don't speak for everyone, but at least me and I think also my friends, of course, appreciate a better quality shirt. But I think that's not the highest priority when we buy a shirt. It's more, do I like the design? Do I like the band? Can I afford it? And the quality is more second rank, at least for me and the people in my immediate surrounding.
Okay, thank you. Razeil, I see your hand. I just want to reply to that. Yes, and the quality becomes an issue after a year or after 6 months. And the problem you get is that if you don't do the screen print right, and if you don't do all these things right, you're probably not going to sell another t-shirt to that person. where the objective of the exercise is you hold on to your fans and they keep coming back to you to buy stuff. And the extra $1 or $2, that is like the great thing about Angry Girl is that there's certain t-shirts they're not going to sell you because they're going to fall apart and they're not going to work. Where there are standard rock and roll t-shirts, that's what they're going to go with. And you can go up from there. And this is the thing, is that the extra money you invest into something isn't about the sale, it's about the next sale. It's about the next time someone's going to buy from you, that they've got to have confidence that you give a fuck. And it's not about, it's not about it's not about the profit margin. It's about you caring about the garments on their clothes. And that's what's hard, is that as everything is decreasing, that profit margin is decreasing, and therefore, see, the cogs of the engine of commerce start stopping. If my plays on Spotify, on streaming services in general, were double what they are now, my life would be in a completely different place, where I could afford to be doing more things. I could afford healthcare. There's all of these things I could do. But unfortunately, because things are shrinking, I can't. Although I was happy with what happened with Ice Planet 9000, but because, let me rephrase that as the payout scheme that seems to be happening to myself and many other artists is shrinking. It's having flow-on effects, because so many artists I've talked to are saying that the paychecks they're getting from streaming services is getting smaller and smaller, while their plays are not. Anyway, that's another conversation for another day. I thought I saw someone's hand up. Oh, where's he go?
It was, but you wrapped things up in a different direction, and I think it was good.
And something I'm starting to do as well is I'm starting Tidal and Pandora, which is funny because Tidal pays the best, Pandora pays the worst. They both have these things where if you do a vocal, hey, this is Carl from Angelspit and you're listening to our new single, only on Pandora, only on Tidal, or, and then you just cut it out. And if you send them a thing, and Amazon's doing it as well, they increase your plays. And of course, you're not getting any money for it because, well, you are, but we're talking cents. But they will push it harder if you have these things. It's still nowhere near as much as what a playlisting on Spotify is, but just more fucking work.
Is that through the distro, through AWOL? Or is that
no, that's on their websites.
Direct to them. So you go to your artist management section.
Yeah.
Get that.
And I find the artist management in Pandora confusing, and I find the artist management in Tidal very confusing. And I find it's really weird that Tidal, Pandora and Amazon will let you do all of these things simultaneously. Tidal doesn't. Tidal will only say, oh, it's only this one thing. And Tidal does, I've noticed, sweet jack shit for getting your music into the ears of other people.
Yeah.
Where these other things are always suggesting, hey, listen to this. You like this track? Listen to this track. I mean, Tidal does that, but it's not, I don't know.
Not the way Spotify seems to.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I don't qualify for any of the Spotify promo stuff, like the free tier things you do, but the you need X listeners for it. They never come up, the video things. I just
what
don't get
about
them.
Canvas? So Canvas is when you can have a video that is on your phone. You should be able to. That should be free
Yeah, it
now.
should be for everybody, but I haven't gotten it yet. It hasn't
Interesting.
appeared on any of my stuff. Yeah, it's fun.
I am not convinced that my canvases actually do anything. It might increase it by 5-10% plays, but
They promise that they'll at least do it up to the difference in which they're not paying you for opting in. Like, but
oh no, I'm not talking about hold
Marquee?
on, am I-
Canvas, Marquee, and there's a few different things. Maybe I'm missing which is which.
I'm talking about the free video thing.
Yeah,
Um,
Canvas.
that's Canvas. Yeah, and Marquee is the no, Marquee
That's-
you have to pay for. Is
yeah.
it discovery mode? I thought they were going.
But those are
low
the three.
discovery.
Yeah, one of them they reduce your payout up to the point that they promote it or something. But
Yeah.
I'll stop
Okay.
saying things I don't know about.
The one that is yeah, well, the thing that they're saying is that if you normally have 100 plays or 1,000, because there's no life under 1,000 these days, and if their marquee discovery modes gets you to 2,000, they will only look at that 1,000 and they say we're going to take a 30% cut of that 1,000 in royalties, which is nothing. Anyway, I feel like I'm being data mined. Anyway, but it's what I'm trying to, hold on, I'm looking at the back end of my extremely depressing thing now. It's like looking at, the back end of my thing is like looking at anal warts or
I was
something.
gonna say looking up your own ass a little bit.
It does.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
looks, it's like exploring my own personal business hemorrhoids. Oh, look at that. Yeah, I can. There you go. Yeah, there's canvases. I didn't know I could do a canvas for all these different songs. So canvases is the free video, but once again, I'm going to go here really quickly and I'm going to tell you, I can't pick when a song's going to work or not. I just can't. I can't tell. I'm looking at Tyranny of the Beat, which just got released. There's always a bump at the beginning and then it fizzles and then it goes down a little bit more.
Yeah, release radar and stuff, and your followers get it.
But what I'm trying to tell you is, no, I can't see where the hate you. Fuck you, you fucking fucker.
Get out of there, man. Get out.
I know it's too late. I'm getting
Get-
depressed now. Get out! Get out!
Everybody,
it's not,
take a limb and pull him out.
It's not telling me where the plays for the fucking canvas are.
Yeah,
It
you
used to
go through the song, the music,
yeah,
or whatever.
I'm
There's a
looking
different
there
tab.
now. It's not telling you. Hi,
3 tabs
everyone.
on the
I'm sorry,
left.
this is so boring.
Yeah.
But what maybe they just took it off because, oh, that's fucking useless. Let's just take it off. I don't know. I don't even know if people look at it. The one thing I have learned about Spotify is the trick is you need to try and get your source of streams, the Spotify algorithmic playlists after a month or two. That's going to disappear.
Yeah, you want people to subscribe or follow or library playlist.
So you need, and I found that going, hey everybody, listens to Angelspit's track and bombing social media with that does help, because people will add it.
Will you say that every week, please? So one of these weeks I'll believe
Actually
you
do
and
it.
do the same, and
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. It always gets so depressing when we talk about Spotify.
I feel a little bit hopeful talking about the surrounding, like being a musician stuff, not the mechanics of their back end. So
yeah, and it's the organics in the back end that started my whole
Yeah.
thing this morning about, oh my God, I'm so depressed.
Well, people listen. People say I liked that. People subscribe and follow and thumbs up and probably listen to it a dozen times that you don't even know about.
Yeah, you never know who's listening. I am going to attempt now to wind this up, unless there's something else somebody else wants to talk about. Mark, talk to me, my darling. Go.
I've got something I don't know how I don't know what the legs on it are like, but I guess what are other people's approach to shopping for fonts for like album covers?
Wow, that's legit.
Because
Um,
go ahead.
Rezi, I see your hand.
Uh, I chose Futura and Helvetica in 1990, and I stopped shopping entirely, and I just get to know those really well. Probably another 20, 30 years, I'll be past them. There are so many weird knockoff free fonts sites that usually one of the methods I don't end up using these things a lot, but the technique is excerpt a little image of a typeface that you really like from something, and then use the optical recognizers that most of the freefonts.com have, and it'll tell you, well, is there a bowl on the T, or is it a straight thing? Is there a, is the crossbar asymmetrical? And you can figure out by just having a few characters what the entire typeface is. And I have found that to be sometimes kind of cool. And then you find the like $600 official Type Foundry version of the face, and you're like, I can't afford it. And then you wonder, why is there a free version of this? And does it just like have malformed glyphs, or I don't know? And you end up getting that. But yeah, the from a few characters, especially E, A, T, M, you can usually get a good beat on what a typeface is. Just collecting images of interesting typefaces. That's one way.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alex. Muted.
Okay, the follow-up question I would have is, do I violate any licensing things when I use system fonts, like Helvetica or Arial or Times New Roman, whatever, what's already installed?
As I understand it, you are licensed to use those, but not distribute that's part of the OS agreement, the ones that are built in.
Thanks.
But you can, obviously you can't redistribute the typeface files themselves, but using the type in work is part of the license in the EULA. If you read your EULA, Also, don't use them in a nuclear reactor.
Yeah, because especially not fucking Comic Sans. Mark, I don't know. I used to buy fonts. I don't anymore. I don't buy fonts partly because of the money. Like I want to support font makers. I think font making is the most wonderful art. But one thing I'm getting into is I try and fuck the fonts up. Either if it's cutting it out on a stencil and taking stencils of them, or just knocking them around a bit. But fonting for a shopping for a font is the best fun. It's really good fun. And typography. Earl Lazitsky was one of the Bauhaus typographers. Fantastic, really inspiring. Also, David Carson, who I absolutely love. What David Carson does with typography is brilliant. I didn't answer your question.
I ripped off the ray gun stuff so much in 1994.
Oh
it was
my
so much
God.
fun. They gave us so much freedom to destroy type and not have it legible and be an asshole with your lettering.
So if you're not familiar, Ray Gun was a magazine from the 90s, and I've talked about it before, but it's so inspiring still. Like, it's just so exciting to go, I'm not going to use a computer. I'm going to use my hands, scissors, glue, scalpel, and transparency paper, and just see what and then scan that shit in, or take a photo of it, or see what happens. It's really exciting, beautiful stuff. God, still love it.
There are two, I don't know if, I thought Emigre might have just sent a thing that they weren't. The two foundries that I really liked are Emigre for some traditional like book style stuff with nods to history, and then House Industries for more modern, interesting, dimensional and graphical type bold stuff that, where the letters work and there's different glyph pairs for different letters and stuff. House Industries, that one, they do like from tiki stuff to outer space stuff to good headline clarity, but with a lot of love for the craft of type design. I don't know if having a favorite foundry is kind of an answer, but at least knowing a few original artists and foundries that are currently doing stuff is cool too.
Mm.
Okay. I was mostly looking for something to kind of cut down the noise a little bit because an artist friend of mine recommended I get my own font that I basically own. And so I went looking and I got some ideas, but I guess I have that thing where you're aware that there are, 10,000 options and you don't want to stop looking too soon, but you also don't want to look at 10,000 options.
Yeah,
Go
sorry.
ahead, please.
It's a quick one. The distinction between being a designer that uses type all the time and choosing a branding identity, like you might want to work with somebody who does the former if you're doing the latter, so that they have that encyclopedic knowledge. And when I joked about using Helvetica for the rest of my life, I kind of do that, and it's to my own detriment, but there's a lifetime of discovery about how the letter forms interact with each other and the different weights and who's struck a better digital version this year and all that stuff. So there is a lot to do. So having somebody who you already trust that did, 10, 20 years of figuring out the noise can be helpful in that regard.
And also it's really nice, like for the band logo, to think about, does this feel futuristic? Does it feel high end? Does it feel, what does the product of the band feel like? And then go from there. And font's important. If KMFDM changed their font, I don't know what would happen. But yeah, so font's important. Yeah, just play with it. It's another thing to play with. I need to play with font.
Mark, one question. Have you landed on a site that lets you type in your letters and it does previews with all of the varieties? So that's a huge step to quickly getting a lot of suggestions, but of course.
I found two websites that seemed like pretty good repositories. One of them didn't let you do that. So what did I do? Was that? Yeah, it's not important, but yeah, but that was a lot of work. I kind of did that, and then I manually cropped that off the page, cleaned up some of the extra space, and literally posted that over my art to get an idea of what it's gonna look like. But yeah, I was just looking for a way to streamline the process, so I'm not needing to look at 10,000 options. I just look at maybe 20, but
yeah, I totally feel that. And everybody's like, well, yeah, look at 2000. That's how you get to 20.
yeah.
Okay.
Helpful.
So another thing you could do is write keywords that you think sum up your music, and then stick it into an AI and say, give me a font suggestion. Why are you laughing? Give me a font suggestion for a brand that has these attributes. See what it says. And then look at those fonts. Like that could be really interesting.
Could be, yeah.
And also, don't overthink it.
That's difficult.
Yeah, the trick is that you want something that's going to have an emotional response. So you might come down to 5, print them out, and put them around the wall so that you see it. And sometimes it's hard to just go, crossing that one off the list. You might want to put an X next to one and a tick next to another. And every day you might look at them and go, I'm going to give that one a tick today, but I'm giving that one another X today. And after 5 days or so, you'll get a feeling for what you feel that your eye gravitates towards.
Yeah. Thanks.
I have no further questions.
Can we do another hour on type or no?
No.
Gotcha.
We're gonna we'll hang back here and talk about type. I will bring this madness to a close. Hold on, and then we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna stay back here. I would like to hold on. Here we go. Carl has just epically got his shit together. Every Saturday, yes, we are here, Art of Rockifying. So please join us. If you got $3 a month you want to throw my way, I would be grateful, and you get a whole bunch of free stuff. That's Angelspit's Patreon. Jump on, y'alls. And the new album, Ice Planet 9000 album, is digitals go live tomorrow. CDs and everything else are making their way out over the next month. Industrial playlist Incisions is a playlist that you need to know about that's on Spotify. But for now, we are going to MTV TV. We're going to raid there from Twitch. And if you're not on Twitch, just hit that link and it's going to take you over. So that's it. Bye. And normally, yeah, see ya. Bye.